Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our virtual employer visit series. We are really fortunate to have an organization with us today by the name of Appalachian Conservation Corps, and they're going to share more with us about kind of their network and how their organization is structured, and then also more with you all about service opportunities. And other opportunities that you may have an interest in and kind of what you would need to do to apply or just to get more knowledge about that. So with that, I'm actually would like to introduce our speakers for today. So first we have Mary Zook Tapiai, and then we also have Seth Newman, and they're gonna present to us today. Also on the call, you can see we have Mr. Collier there. He is your career counselor for both Hanover and Mechanicsville High Schools. And then we have Ms. Callahan, who's our school counseling intern for Atlee and Patrick Henry. So welcome to everyone. Thank you all for joining us. At the end of today's session, if you do have any questions, you can feel free to ask them or throw them in the chat, and we'll be monitoring that throughout today's presentation as well. So thank you. And with that, Mary, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks. Like Ms. Edwards said, my name is Mary Zook Tapiai. I'm the AmeriCorps Vista at Appalachian Conservation Corps, and I've only been here since last August, so I'm going to do my very best to answer your questions. But I've also got my friend Seth here backing me up, and he knows all about what it's like to be on a crew, what it's like to live in the outdoors while you're working with us. So questions about logistics and crew life are definitely going to be answered by him. So Seth, can you introduce yourself real fast, and then we will get our slideshow going.
Yeah, so my name is Seth Newman. I'm head crew leader for Appalachian Conservation Corps. I've been with the organization since spring 2018. So I started out as a member and I've been leading crews for a couple years now. It's a lot of fun. I love it. Right now we don't have project work going on. So instead of being out in the field, I'm sort of in the office or working from home as it is, and helping with recruiting and that kind of thing.
All right, and here we go. Good, yes, visible. Sweet. All right, Appalachian Conservation Corps is part of a larger network of conservation organizations across the US. Our parent company is called Conservation Legacy. And so we're just one small program under Conservation Legacy. And then we're also linked to AmeriCorps, which means that our volunteers, they're called volunteers, you are paid. We're gonna get to that in a second, don't panic. But it does mean that our members and our volunteers get AmeriCorps-based benefits, and we'll talk about that later. So basically just AmeriCorps and Conservation Legacy are partners in service. And then Appalachian Conservation Corps, where Seth and I work, is just one chapter of this larger kind of conservation family. We're located in Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is where I grew up. I've lived here my whole life except for college. So it's exciting to do service work in places that I grew up, running around and hiking with my family. We work alongside project partners like the National Park Service and the Forest Service, and then also a bunch of other nonprofits like Friends of Blackwater in West Virginia, and the Access Fund we have a project with coming up this summer. So pretty much anybody who's out there doing boots on the ground work might be one of our project partners. Looking over my notes here. We work specifically with youth and young adults. The youngest that you can be and join one of our programs is 16 at the moment. And then we go up to, we'll take veterans in their 30s, but typically most of our members are between about 18 and 24. Like I said, AmeriCorps is kind of the backbone of our service. They're called paid volunteers, but really that just means you're not salaried. You are kind of willingly donating your time, but you do receive things like a living stipend and an education award, which is super beneficial. And so that's why we're really proud to work with AmeriCorps and be kind of part of a larger organization. Like I said, we do boots on the ground work, which means we're outdoors every day, and we're doing manual labor. We do trail construction and maintenance, which is building channels so that erosion happens off the trail and not on the trail. Invasive species control, habitat restoration and improvement. We have an entire chainsaw crews which go out and cut down invasive trees in national forests and around parks. A little bit of historical site restoration. We have some interns who are working on a Native American heritage site over near Jamestown right now, which has been a super cool project. And then occasionally we also do natural disaster response when it needs to happen, if there's a hurricane that needs to be cleaned up from. But primarily we're working kind of in this vicinity. We don't just work in Harrisonburg and Virginia either. We have crews that go to Maryland and Pennsylvania and West Virginia. Where am I missing? Ohio. We go to Ohio sometimes.
As well as North Carolina sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there is also a North Carolina conservation crew, so we overlap with them a little bit, and then they kind of take care of the Southeast. We engage young Americans. Like I said, most of our members are about 18 to 24, but we do have youth crews which are open to 16 to 18. So that would include high school students, and they just work over the summers. And then we also work alongside communities that are already established. That's kind of a big thing, is that we're not really going in and doing things that they can't do themselves. We're going in and we're assisting with projects that are usually already partly underway. Okay, here's our typical yearly schedule. We run these outdoor crews from spring into fall, and they operate on a Hitch schedule, which we'll talk about in a second. And then LDP stands for leader development, so they get started a little sooner. Individual placements and internships are typically for older members, like college students who are looking for internship credit, and they run year round. And then the AmeriCorps Vista position, which is my job this year, is also year round. But the crews themselves operate on a seasonal schedule. So you're not committing to an entire year of service, you're just committing to a season. I did not format this to be, all right. Ooh, that was fancy. So here's our typical Hitch schedule. A Hitch is what we call this session where you're in the field, you're out camping and working with the rest of your crew. And that's typically 9 or 10 days out in the field. And then you get 5 days off to go home and kind of recuperate. So we'll do a rig up at our office, either in Harrisonburg, or we also have an office in Beckley, West Virginia. So depending on where your project site is, you might rig up here or in West Virginia. You ride with your crew out to your work site, you work for those 9 or 10 days, and then you come back and you reorganize and make sure that your gear is all taken care of and maintained. And then this summer, we will also have a youth crew that only operates during the day, and there's no camping involved. So we're super excited about that, hoping for some people who might not have as much experience with camping, but who still want to be part of the conservation efforts. So they'll just work for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, instead of our typical 10 days on, 5 days off Hitch schedule. This is what's involved in rigging up and de-rig. So Seth, is there anything you want to talk about here? I did say we camp outside, right? While we're on Hitch. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, this slide, I would say, is pretty accurate to the rig up and de-rig process. Typically, most of our operations rig up out of Harrisonburg, but we are sort of branching out at the moment, like Mary mentioned. We have some crews that are going to be rigging up out of Beckley, West Virginia, and this summer we're going to have a crew that rigs up out of Abington, so a little bit closer to where y'all are located, most likely. So we're pretty excited about that, hoping to sort of get some more local people from Southwest Virginia involved.
Here's what a typical workday on Hitch might look like. We have COVID protocols in place right now. So our crews are a little smaller than they typically would be during precedented times. And they're wearing masks in the field when they're working close together and when they're riding in vehicles. So I think actually these guys in this picture in this stretching circle to the left are wearing masks. You can't really see. And then a big part of Hitch life together is that everybody cooks, everybody does camp chores, and you get to really be friends and a community just with your crew, which I think is the cool part. I worked on a work crew, not with Appalachian, but I worked on a different outdoor crew when I was in high school, and I'm still in contact with those people who were on my crew. It was a huge experience for me that really shaped where my career trajectory was pointed. And we hear a lot of that from the crews that work with us, that they stay friends even after they leave. And some of them go on to become like Seth and be leaders and work for us full time. All right, there's a lot here. So I'm gonna breeze over some of the more pertinent benefits. But like I said, you're not just a volunteer who's donating your time for zero pay. You do receive a living stipend, which is what they call your paycheck, which is paid bi-weekly. And that depends a little bit on how many hours you're working. So this 330 that we have listed here is not necessarily program wide. That'll adjust a little bit based on what kind of crew you're on and how many hours you're working. A big thing that you do get because of our AmeriCorps status is you get a Seagal Education Award after you complete your full service term. And that money can be used for college loans, it can be used for textbooks and housing, but it can also be used for other educational opportunities that aren't necessarily college. So you can use this to get your yoga instructor certification or your CPR certification. You can use this for programs like NOLS or the Oregon Project, where you go out to a different area and you do outdoor education for a semester. So when you think education award, don't think it means you have to go to college and you have to use this for typical four-year university. There's a bajillion different options that you can use that for. If you are planning to go to college and you do one of our crews in the middle of college or during a semester, your student loans get suspended while you're working for us. And often, depending on what kind of college you're going to, AmeriCorps will then pick up whatever interest you've accrued during your service term. And that includes any AmeriCorps-based position. So like right now, I'm a Vista AmeriCorps volunteer. And so whatever interest is accruing on my student loans during my year of service will be automatically paid for after my Vista service term ends. So that applies for any AmeriCorps position. We provide on-the-job training and all your personal protective equipment. You get a uniform from us. We provide all the tools. I just lost my place.
Well, I would just.
Oh, I was going to say the assistance program. We don't have health insurance, but we do have kind of a mental health assistance program, which is open to anybody. And then professional development opportunities. So, Seth, do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would first just add that when you're out in the field with us, we're providing you all the food that you need. We have we have a pretty generous food budget, at least like in my opinion. Crews eat super well. Even part of like the personal development thing is encouraging crews to cook new meals and sort of trying to pass off some cooking skills and just like sort of beginning life skills to a lot of our crew members. And a place to camp is always going to be provided. Oftentimes that'll be in a tent. During sort of non-COVID conditions, camping will sometimes also just mean like staying in a cabin or a shelter. So it really depends. Sometimes we get to stay in like pretty sweet backcountry cabins in Shenandoah National Park, which can be a ton of fun. Yeah, and then as far as the pay goes, I mean, Appalachian Conservation Corps does a $330 a week stipend for all its crews, and that's really only ever going to go up. I think there are maybe other conservation corps that have a stipend that's a little bit less, but for us, it's always going to be $330, or it's going to go up in future years. And yeah, currently for our 300-hour term, it's $1,300 education award, and for our 675, or I guess for our 900-hour term, I think it is, it's around $6,000. But again, those are only ever going to go up. You're never going to really see those education awards decrease. Pretty much every year they're bumped up by like $10, $15, $20. Mm-hmm. As far as professional development goes, I mean, I started out as a member and sort of worked my way into being an assistant crew leader, head crew leader. For someone who's interested in staying in this field, I think that's a great path. If you're not necessarily interested in working for a conservation corps indefinitely, but you want to somehow be involved in conservation, it's still a great sort of opening opportunity. A lot of people go on to work for the Park Service after serving as a member on one of our crews, or people go and work for the Forest Service, or become like park rangers at state parks, dispatchers, all sorts of different things. And if you're applying for a job that's in this field, it looks great to have AmeriCorps on your resume, and it looks great to have just conservation work on a conservation corps on your resume. And employers love to see that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And all the project partners that we talked about working with, those are just additional kind of names and opportunities in the outdoor industry networking web. So you just are going to get a ton of exposure working outdoors and with other people who do all kinds of things outdoors, and potential job providers and employees. Seth, what crew was this? There he is.
Yeah, so that was a Shenandoah summer crew in the summer of 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, summer 2019. Nice. Yeah, and we're just doing pretty classic trail maintenance, installing wood and rock trail structures to basically keep water off of trails, so that because really when you get into trail work, you learn that water is the biggest enemy of trails, and a lot of the work we do involves building drainage systems, building ways to get water off the trails. And that's not what we're literally doing in this photo, but that's what we were doing in Shenandoah on this particular hitch.
We're kind of running up on time, so we're going to go fast. Individual placements are those internships we talked about for college students. So most of these won't apply to high school graduates immediately, but just know that if you do go into a field that has anything to do with public lands or restoration or management and even history and anthropology, we might have an internship for you that will get you that credit for college and help you earn your degree. And all the same benefits from AmeriCorps apply to these internships. So you still get the education award, you get the living stipend, but this is going to look more like a classic 9 to 5, 7 days a week job. And you're working more with the public rather than on a crew hitch schedule. But just know that those are available for college students. So if this looks interesting and you want to keep doing that in the future and get credit for it, we've got you covered. Also, real quick, something we didn't mention, but I think should be mentioned, is that You don't have to be an outdoor expert to be on one of our crews. You don't have to have the equipment. We have a lot of equipment that we can provide for you, things like sleeping bags and things like tents and things like we can help you choose a pair of boots to wear and rain jackets. So just know that you don't need to be fully equipped head to toe before you apply. Just give us like a list of things that you need, and we're going to make sure that you're equipped to be on one of our crews. And we're going to teach you all the skills that you need to know to be happy and productive outdoors. So don't let anything stop you. Here's our contact info, and we're going to give more contact info to Ms. Edwards. So please let us know if you have any questions, or if you want to apply, or if you just want to know more about something we didn't cover on this presentation. Holler anytime. In fact, we need more things to do because we're all indoors right now.
This was fantastic. We really appreciate you sharing this with our students, and just it really showcases and highlights how important the work that you all do is. And so we appreciate all that you all do. And I think they're great opportunities for students, for those that are interested in conservation, but then also opportunities for students that may not have an interest in that, but these are great service opportunities to give back to the community. So
yeah, if you don't know what college you're going to yet, hang out with us for a summer and just try different things that you haven't done before, and get outdoors, make friends with other people. This is a great time to sort of, you still get the education award even if you're not planning to go to college right away. So like, don't pay for college if you don't know what you're going to do. Come and hang out, rack up some benefits, and then you can decide later. We're a great option for that.
For sure. Well, thank you all. Thank you so much for your time today. So reaching out for students that are interested, they should just reach out to this email address or to go to the website. That is the best way to go, you all would say?
Yeah, and follow us on social media, because any positions that we are opening up for application will always be announced on social media. So that's a great way to stay updated if you don't want extra emails.
And I just want to reiterate real quick, a lot of what we were talking about was the adult crew. So that's once you're 18 or older, that's the AmeriCorps crew, but we do also have youth crews. And youth crews are for anyone between the age of 16 and 18. So if you're 18 years old, it's your decision. You can apply for youth crew, adult crew, or both. Between 16 and 18, you can apply to be on a youth crew. That's also a paid position. It's not an AmeriCorps position. So it doesn't have the education award, but it does still have a living stipend, which will probably come out to be around $330 a week. The way that the Youth Corps pay is calculated is it's $8.25 an hour. Usually that comes out to be the same, about $330 a week.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And Seth and Mary, we really appreciate your time today, taking time out to share this information with us. Students, we posted some of this information on Schoology within the last week, and we will take today's video and we will put it out on our HCPS Career Counseling YouTube page as well. So you can take a look at that there. And we'll also put this contact information in the event you would like to reach out and learn more about these great opportunities. So again, Seth and Mary, thank you for joining us today and for this information.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was a lot of fun. We appreciate getting to share about our organization.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.